Hey friends, it's Lauren Taylor, and thanks for joining me today in my craft room. I appreciate you stopping by. Today I'm hopping along with some of my crafty friends from the Handmade Happiness Facebook group. This month our theme is complementary colors, and each crafter is either making an easel card or a spinner card, and I decided to do a spinner card today. So I am using some products that I haven't used before from Whimsy Stamps, and they're the Magic Circle stamps and dies. I'm going to be using a background that I made in a previous video, which I will link up here in the upper right hand corner in case you want to check that out later. But it's using Stencil from A Colorful Life Designs, some Distress Oxide inks, and some lunar paste from Simon Hurley and Ranger Ink. I'll have everything linked down below in my description if you want to get more details on the products that I'm using today. I decided to cut out all of my circles, and I'm using my Lawn Fawn stacked circles because it had the perfect size to cut out each of those little circles and half circles and quarter circles from that background. Now, I want to say I had a lot of trouble with this magic wheel die set, so I cut out quite a bit of this video. This is me starting it one day, and then I'm going to come back to it the next day because I just wasn't liking how my dies were coming together for the magic circle. So pretend that I don't have that magic circle put together yet, and we're focusing on how I put my background together. I cut down a piece of cardstock. It is 4 by 5 1/4, and it's using this really pretty textured white cardstock from my Your Paper Insider box number 2. And I'm gluing down all of my different die cuts of those 1/2 and 1/4 circles. I just wanted to create kind of a fun detailed edge where I will put my little spinner magic circle on top of it when I'm finish assembling my card base. So there is obviously some gaps there because of the way the stencil colors on a 6x6 piece of paper. So I made sure to line up the edge of the die or the lunar paste to the edge of that background rectangle, and I'm trimming off the excess paper so it looks like those circles just kind of go off the edge of my background. So you'll see here they line up right to the edge, and I have a really pretty background with a lot of texture and those complementary colors of orange and blue. Now I'm going to add my wheel later on, you'll see shortly, in that spot kind of off-centered on the card. I thought it looked kind of cool with it being off-centered, and I'm going to go ahead and glue my background to a card base. It is a side folding A2 card base, so it's 5 1/4, or sorry, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 when scored and folded, but I'm going to have it horizontally so that way it will be, on its side, which will match kind of the direction of my sentiments when I finish putting on the magic wheel. So here I am the next day trying again to figure out what I did wrong with my magic wheel. So I'm going to start all over again. I was trying to make it work with some of the circles from that stenciled background, but I think I just needed to use the dies as intended. So you'll see here I have the larger circle out of some orange cardstock, the moving circle out of this dark blue cardstock, and then the extra pieces in white. And that orange and blue cardstock are from my Your Paper Insider box number 3, which you can currently get with a current subscription. So I'm bringing out my stamps again from Whimsy. This is Magic Circle stamp set, and I want to add some fun designs to my circles. Now, I was originally trying to use some of my stencil designs, but it didn't work out, and unfortunately those are going to have to go in the recycle bin, but that's okay. We're adapting and we're going to try and figure this die set out. So I am going to do some embossing, which I think is going to cause a little bit more friction on my magic circle than desired. So I would say if you have this die set or you're thinking about getting this die set, I would maybe not do embossing on these pieces. I think it just, like I said, adds more friction to the circle, and I have a little bit of a hard time getting my magic circle to maneuver just right. So until you're a pro with this die set, I would recommend maybe just stamping with regular ink and not embossing, which you'll see when I show you at the end of this video how it moves. There is a little bit of tugging to get my circle to spin correctly. But anyway, it is what it is, and we're going with it. So I've stamped my images and sentiment in my embossing ink, and I'm adding some ultrafine white embossing powder to both of those circles. I'm going to use my heat gun to melt that embossing powder down, and it will create a nice shiny white design on those two circle pieces. I'm making sure that I didn't accidentally, close up that little slot with my embossing powder. And I did use some anti-static powder before applying the embossing ink, so I'm just grabbing a Swiffer cloth to pick up any of that excess powder. I also use my little mini vacuum that I got from Amazon. I use it to pick up the excess embossing powder that I always spill. So now I am adding that little stabilizer wheel, and I'm lining it up to the back of my circle that's going to be doing all of the moving. There's another piece that I will align on the back side that's kind of a stopper piece, and then the larger with a nice rounded side there, little corner, it will be the piece that the card receiver will pull to activate the spinning circles of this magic wheel. So I know that I need to put that on the part that will be coming up out of the opening on the magic circle, which is where I'm starting my happy birthday sentiment. I'm using my adhesive runner that is repositionable for a couple minutes, and then it will glue solid after it dries, but I wanted to make sure I was doing this right before I glued it down, so using that repositionable tape until I know it's right where I need it to be. Same thing for the back side. So the back piece is going to make sure that my circle doesn't just fully come out of the orange circle. It has a little stopper which will keep it from coming out. Now it does take me quite a while to get this all positioned correctly. I tried not to edit too much out because I want to give an honest review of this die set. I think there is a lot that needs to be more explained on how to use it because I just had a lot of trouble understanding how to use the die. I did watch some videos to understand how it all works together. And again, maybe it's because I'm using an embossing powder on there and it's just causing a lot of friction and it's resisting wanting to turn smoothly. I also think that maybe I don't have enough glue when I adhere my circle down to my card because I had to trim my stopper here, as you can see, because I was worried that when I glued down this circle that I wouldn't have enough room for it to fully turn. But then I was worried that my piece would just come completely out of the orange circle and not stop like it's supposed to, which it's doing okay right now. And maybe the slot needs to be a little bit wider on my orange piece. It is a very small, thin slot. Maybe my cardstock on the blue circle is just too thick along with the embossing. So I definitely need to play around with it a little bit more before I determine if maybe this die is not for me. But it is a really cool concept and I really liked it. So I am going to try it a couple more times and see maybe what works best for this die. But I will say I don't recommend using embossing powder, and but that's just my experience so far with it. Let me know in the comments if you've used this die before and any advice you have for me to make sure I'm doing it correctly and that I am using it to its fullest capability and that I'm using it correctly. So I was able to peel off that magic circle off of my card, which I was really happy about because I love my background and I was so bummed that my magic circle just like was not spinning. And when I finally got it to spin, it completely came out and then I couldn't get it to work again because it was already glued down to my card. So I carefully peeled it off, and as you can see, there was a little bit of damage to my background, but I'm using the exact same circle size, so it should cover it up just fine, which it does. And I'm just using some wet glue and trying to only get it on the very edge of that orange die cut circle, so that way my stopper won't get trapped or stuck in the glue. Now, it took me a little while to hold it down and make sure that my orange circle was adhered nicely, and here you can see I'm working on spinning that blue circle out. And it works great, it stops, but like I said, it does take a little bit of effort to get it in and out of that slot on the orange circle, but I think that's because I'm using a thicker cardstock to be my blue spinner circle, and the embossing powder I think just adds too much friction. So I would love to know what you think about this die. Again, I hope that maybe it's just user error and I can figure out a better way to use it in the future. But here is my card idea for the card hop-in using complementary colors and featuring a spinner. You can use the hashtag in my title and description to find the rest of the crafters hopping today, and I hope you find lots of inspiration. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!